The White Scars, the 5th Space Marine Legion. Best known for bringing all of the bikes in the world, leaving their dreadnoughts at home, and having the Primarch with the most fun name to say, Jucoci. Now, when I look out into the sea of Space Marine chapters that people collect, I don't see a lot of White Scars armies, which is too bad. I think a lot of people are scared away by the white armor, but I think secretly, the White Scars are actually the easiest Space Marines to paint. I have a little intercessor body that is ready and waiting to be turned into a member of the Horde of Jucoci. It's an assault intercessor, the fastest of the intercessors, or at least the most fighty with a running pose. Pro tip for starting a new Space Marine army, all Mark 10 armors are interchangeable, so if you get a few kits at once, you can mix and match them as you go and have a more unique looking collection. I made a pose that right now looks a little bit off, like he's hugging nothing, but it's all part of the plan. I glued on an assault shoulder pad with the extra armor, and for his right arm, I found a shoulder pad that has a rope decoration from the Sternguard Veteran Sprue, which is a motif the White Scars have. They had, in my opinion, the best looking Contemptor Dreadnought, which was covered in ropes. And you know what that dreadnought would look great in? A case from today's sponsor, Jucoci. The new Jucoci Miniature Storage Case is a great solution to storing and transporting your miniature armies. You heard me right? Armies. This case is huge. I currently have just shy of 7,000 points of Black Templar in this bad boy, and I can admire them with pride turning on the super bright LED lights. Opening it up, you will find 5 metal trays that you can slide in and out, perfect for attaching miniatures that have magnets in the bases, and it's modular. You can put these trays wherever you want inside, whether you need to transport a horde of infantry or give your epic heroes the room they need, the new Jucoci case can hold them all. The case has a handle on top so it can be easily carried, and it ships flat. Then, after screwing together 8 screws, 4 on each side panel, it's ready to go. If you think the Jucoci Miniature Transport Case would be a good fit for you and your armies, you can shop with our discount code EOB202405 to get 15% off. And for returning Jucoci customers who have bought one of their previous cases and need another, you can go to Jucoci's official website and use your previous Amazon order number to get a further 15% off. These 2 discount codes can be used together when you place your order on Amazon. I glued on the sergeant head that has the little skull detail on the forehead, and I have it pointing in the direction of his gun arm. And I can't forget to drill out that gun barrel. I made a small dent with the pointy end of my hobby knife and finished it off with my hobby drill. Now he's a cool ultramarine. It's time to make him into a White Scar. First, he needs a top knot. I stole one from the Orc Knob kit, gluing it down with plastic glue right to the Space Marine mohawk. The next step is making good on that odd pose I have him in. I went to my old sprue hunting ground for bits, Warlord Games Plastic Skeleton Warrior Miniatures. These guys are okay, but as parts, they're great. I've used most of the skelly parts over the years, but the shield is ripe for the taking. Right now it's a little too big, so I carved away the outer ring and I sanded it smooth. To get it onto his arm, I cut off a little bit of sprue and glued it to the back of his hand, and then attached the shield, and now this pose makes sense. He's protecting himself while preparing his chainsword for an upcoming stab. Now, the White Scars were the inspiration for one of the Space Marine detachments, the Stormlance Task Force, and this one is built all around mounted units. And within the Space Marine Codex, there are 2. Primaris Outriders and Chaplain on Bike. And you might think that sounds like a bad detachment because bikes are just kind of a unit. They're not bad, but they're not great. They don't fight particularly hard, they don't shoot particularly hard, and so most people don't really take a lot of bikes. But upon reading the Stormlance Task Force, just a story appeared to me through the rules. You got your 6 bikers with the attached chaplain on bike, and for the lulz you bring the Outrider ATV. And you see across the table your opponent's Leman Russ battle tank. Now your bikes can't do anything about the Leman Russ battle tank. Or can they? So first you gotta get there. Now bikes naturally move 12 inches, but they can advance automatically for 6, so that is 18 inches. But your guns don't have assault. But in the Stormlance Task Force, you can spend a CP to get Blitzing Fusillade. So all of a sudden, all of your guns have assault, so you drive 18 inches right into the tank's face, and you're ready to shoot. But you don't shoot yet. First, you throw grenades. That gives you 3 mortal wounds on the tank, and now it's your time to shoot. Your 24 piddly little bolter shots wouldn't ordinarily do anything to the tank, but with the attached chaplain, you get devastating wounds. And all your guns are twin-linked. So get out the reels, boys. We're going fishing. Fishing for some 6s. You should get probably about 6, and then plus the 3 that we already got from grenades, that is 9 mortal wounds going into the target. And then you charge in. Now in melee, the only thing you got going for you is the chaplain, and the chaplain isn't even that great. Strength 6, AP -1, his little Crozius boinkin stick is not gonna do much. However, with Fury of the Storm, the enhancement, it gives +2 strength and +2 AP. So all of a sudden, you've got a Strength 8, AP -3 Crozius. You whack that tank a couple of times, you probably will blow it up. And then, just the idea of my opponent being like, what just happened? Bikes destroyed my battle tank. That's pretty cool. That's what I love about the new detachment system in Warhammer 40k 10th edition. I'm a Black Templar player, but if I build around this detachment, I get to feel like a White Scar. And speaking of White Scar, this White Scar needs a base. The White Scars hail from the planet called Mundus Planus, which is in fact a name. But the Scars themselves choose to call it Chagoris, as well as home. In terms of the planet's climate, it's just Earth, so I'm free to set my Scar up in whatever terrain I want, and I'm thinking Wasteland Hills. I stuck cork down to the base and ripped it up, taking advantage of the cork's irregular texture, taking some of the scrap and gluing it back on top to increase the height, leaving enough room for his foot. I sprinkled on some glue and sand to add in a little bit more texture, and Chagoris was complete. Now it's time to get some paint on this sucker, and I think the white armor of the White Scars tends to scare off a lot of people because historically, white paint tends to suck. Which is true, but I have a lot of experience with white armor, and I actually think the White Scars is probably the easiest Space Marine color scheme. Step 1 of painting white armor is of course black. It's true that painting white is usually a struggle of hundreds of layers of poor paint coverage, but if you make it a recipe, it can become really easy, barely an inconvenience. I used to use white ink for Zenithal priming, but sometimes the delicate ink layer would react with the paints I used, as I like to work fast and not give it time to cure, so I switched to Army Painter White for a tougher white layer. I sprayed this on from above, laying down more paint than a typical Zenithal, just leaving the underside of the armor a gray. Then I broke out the paintbrush and painted his in-between parts with a gray paint. That's the only careful brushwork I'll have to do for a while, because the next few steps are all washes and contrast. I made up a unique black wash, mixing Lamian Median, a healthy dash of Nuln Oil, and just a little Tyran Blue, and then threw this over the entire model. This mix will darken the armor just a little bit and separate the details in the armor. Now it's time for those weapons, and my favorite thing for weapons is Rattling Grime. It's black contrast paint with just enough brown to give guns an oily appearance. Then some good old-fashioned Black Templar over his ponytail. Washes are really easy, and they can become even easier. For my own painting, I have my Black Templar blend pre-mixed in an old paint pot that never leaves my desk, and anyone could do the same for a White Scars or whatever paint recipe they make. Boom! A little bit of contrast paint and the armor, the hair, the weapons are done. And now I get to pour my time and effort and love and attention into my favorite stuff. All of the little details, the stuff that people actually notice when they look at the miniature. I've got the white, it's time to paint the Scar. I painted red on the Imperialis on his chest, one of his shoulder pads, one of his knee pads, and the wrapper on his ponytail. And I broke out my good brush to freehand some triangles onto his shield. His white armor is like a crisp, fresh piece of paper, and all of these saturated red details jump out. Once I had them all base coated, I put a red wash over top and then did some final highlights with Evil Sun Scarlet, my favorite bright red paint. To finish up the weapons, I took some silver paint and a small dry brush and quickly brushed it over the weapons. This on top of the Rattling Grime makes perfect looking weapons with almost no effort. And the few little skulls left on him I hit with gold paint, an Agris Earthshade wash, and then a final highlight of gold mixed with silver. He's so close and he's looking so good. It's time for those symbols, and I never paint them if I don't have to. I prepped his shoulder pad with gloss paint to get them ready for some decals. I happen to own about 100 of the old Space Marine transfer sheets, and for some reason, every sheet seems to be missing the Black Templar symbols. But I don't need those today. Today, I need the White Scars and the red assault symbol. For decals, I use Micro Sol and Micro Set solutions. I put my decals onto the wet palette sponge and then drip Micro Sol over them to soften the plastic and glue, and then I put Micro Set over the shoulder. I carefully took my wet decals and held them parallel with the shoulder and slid them across, poking them gently with my hobby knife and seeing how they lay. While the decals were floating on top of the surface, I used my hobby knife to make some small relief cuts in the clear part of the decal. Then I took a damp paper towel and crushed the decals flat, forcing out any trapped microset and air so that the decal was properly glued down. I let the shoulder pads dry and then applied another coat of gloss paint to make the edge of the plastic decal disappear. I love decals. I love decals so much you guys don't even know. I have applied thousands upon thousands of them, and they have saved me endless hours of freehanding. I love them so much, I almost love them more than our Patreon. We have a new set of terrain every month, and this month we have the Pestilent Forest, a table's worth of grotesque yet beautiful terrain pieces that'll let you fight your tabletop battles surrounded by the corrupting influence of decay. Huge eye plants, cauldrons of pestilence, rotting creep, and the Great Maw make for a very chaotic environment. This little white scar is coming along really nicely. The next step is going to be doing the grit pass. One thing that helps a mini, especially a war mini, look real and not like a toy is battle damage. I do this on all my Black Templar. Since they're black, I do silver chipping so that they stand out against the armor. For my scars, I don't want chipped paint, more like pitted and textured paint. The white scars get their armor repainted more regularly than my Templar. I took some foam and put it into my forceps, and then I dipped it in the white paint and pressed it into my finger until it was leaving behind tiny pinpricks of paint instead of pools, and I sponged this everywhere. Then I took my sharp paintbrush and did some micro scratches, dragging lines across the model. This is a little thing, but I love the energy it gives to the model. It adds that grim darkness to Space Marines, which otherwise kind of look like Buzz Lightyear. Now for those eyes, and this is where I break from canon a little bit. The white scars were red lenses, but I think having everything be red makes the model less interesting, where having cold blue lenses and having that be the only instance of blue on the mini makes his face that much more interesting. Now the white scars are a really striking looking color scheme because they are white and they are red. And so in terms of basing, I think like snow, just more white would look bad, and I think in a gray urban battlefield would also look pretty bad. But introducing another color, I think that would look pretty good. I took a nice saturated mustardy color and watered it down, and I rubbed this all over the base, letting it splash up onto his feet. Then I gave it a wash with some Acrex Earthshade, also thinning this with water to lighten it up, and then for the highlight, I went with a pastel yellow to make a sandy scrubland kind of look. And speaking of scrub, I got out the shrub. Bzz. I put one big tuft on the base and then surrounded it by small tufts. I love a good grass tuft. It helps separate the mini from the base by giving it a different texture. And speaking of separation, one trick I've been doing is painting the rim of the base using gloss black. This difference in finish helps the rim feel different from the mini. I have really been enjoying painting up every single different chapter of Space Marines, and I knew white scars were gonna be an absolute banger because you can't get much brighter than white. And these guys wear white armor and it looks so good. It frames the red beautifully, like it just works so well. I play Black Templar, but if for some reason, if my Black Templar army disappeared and I was starting Space Marines again, I might do white scars. Number one, it's a bit of a less popular chapter and I'm a little bit of a hipster, so it would be really fun, but I also love a theme. I love the idea of rocking up to a game and my opponent being like, okay, so what are you playing? Space Marines? What are you bringing? Nothing but bikes. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what kind of a game we're about to have. Like, that idea fills me with a lot of joy, and there's just something about the white scars. Let me know in the comments below what chapter I should take a peek at next and experience firsthand. Thanks for watching.